If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. New Year's Eve day, and New Year's Eve night. A very interesting 24 hours in the calendar. And some of you love it. You revere it. You can't wait to December 31st. While others of you hate it, can't stand it, wish the day was erased off the calendar completely, and we start with January 1. And I understand, and I'm somewhere in the middle. I used to love it, revere it. Oh, we couldn't have enough parties. We couldn't have enough people. It's going to be a blast. It's amazing. We're going to have so much fun. But then that changes over time. And as it changes over time, things change. And schedules change, and people's plans change, and all those things happen. And one of the things that I think that many of us deal with is the stress and anxiety from what happened last year. So maybe there were some plans that you had last year that were supposed to happen and come into fruition, and they did not. And that can be really challenging as well, because you remember the disappointments, the expectations that happened last year, and you remember it all go to shit. I remember back last year, it wasn't a horrible New Year's Eve, but it definitely was not the best New Year's Eve. And it was interesting because everything had been planned, and it had been planned for like 6 weeks. And I even had friends that called me initially to set up the plans. They wanted to do this. And so I went and got the reservations. Actually, I went and checked the restaurant, hours before to make sure the table that they had us sat at, all this stuff. We were going to go to a party after that one couple had been invited to that had invited everybody else. And it was going to be 4 couples, 8 people total. And things were all great. Everything was great until the 30th. And one couple had just gotten back in from out of town. And unfortunately, they had gotten COVID coming back. And I understand that. But, it's unfortunate and you feel bad. And they were definitely down for the count. Fevers, in bed, feeling horrible. But you look back and you go, okay, I hope y'all get better. But we have, 6 people that are going to have fun. And one of the couples that was obviously still going was, had this great party after that they were invited to. And, they had told the host that, we would all be going. And so that was going to be super good, super fun. And so I was looking forward to that. One of the couples called me and said, hey, we can't wait to see you. And about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a text from one person saying, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to make it. Our dog got sick. Actually her husband's dog got sick, and they're not going to be able to make it. And so it's hours before. Literally the reservations were at 7:30. And I said, hey, is there any way to get around it? I mean, I love animals. I love dogs. I get it, and apparently the dog had been ill for the last few days. And I understand that. But it was just very challenging because now we're down to 4. And now the party invitation, it's still there, but it's not the same when you go to someone's house and they don't really know you. So that's not really going to work out. So now we're down to the eating, and that's really it, because I don't want to go to someone's house I don't really know. Not that I don't make friends very easily and everything, but again, it's just kind of odd on New Year's. And it was really kind of challenging, and we all made the best out of it. But we ended up going home early, around 10:30 after dinner, called it a night. And you look back at a lot of these years, And a lot of these years, there are disappointments. There is, stress, like getting that text message and saying, hey, if you can really, double check, recheck, I'd love to have you for dinner, even if we just go to dinner and y'all head home, and that didn't change. And so it becomes challenging. And I know that many of you out there have gone through the same. You've gone through the same anxiety and stress on New Year's, trying to make it the best day possible, going through the process, things fall through the cracks, and the next thing you know, you're just desperate, having another drink and saying, when is it going to be January 1st already? And I think a lot of the reasons why we feel this way is, first off, December 31st has too much hype. It has way too much hype. The hype is, off the charts. And it's hard because you really can't ever get it right. And I've had experiences on New Year's back in the day when I was younger and having a lot more fun, and there were fun times. They were great times. But even then, the morning comes around, you wake up, you go to bed, you wake up, you feel bad. You go into January 1st not feeling that great and starting the new year kind of, a little out of sorts. And so I find that the hype makes a lot of us overdrink, over party, a lot of you stay out longer or drink more than you ever would if it was just some, other day. And I think that's a big problem that kind of comes along with December 31st. And I think that some people, have troubles during the holiday season already because it can be challenging. Maybe you're not with your family, or you just lost a loved one, or you just lost a spouse, or you just went through a divorce. Whatever the case may be, it might be challenging. And then we end it on this overly hyped up, supposed to be amazing day that for many people just does not pay off that way. It just doesn't work that way. And so how do we overcome that? How do we get past that? How do we get past falling for this hype? How do we get past overvaluing this one night a year? How do we stop doing that in order to better our lives? How do we stop doing that in order to better ourselves? How do we stop doing that to have a better year coming into the very next day? And that's what I think needs to be on our hierarchy, is like, what is our hierarchy of needs, and how do we create and facilitate the best situation? And I think a lot of times our energy in these situations are all placed on the wrong places, the wrong things, the wrong situations, the wrong spaces. It's just our energy is not placed properly. Our energy is placed into things that maybe we can control, maybe we can't control. Our energy is misplaced in many levels. Our energy is misplaced into things that, quite frankly, are hype. It is stuff that we can never really attain. And if we even do attain, and I've had a few New Year's that got close to, it was wild. It was wild. There's always something, though. It's like a rose. It's got thorns. There's always a problem. There's always something. But it was closer to being less problems and more problems. But then that also leads to another situation, too, because then you start judging and comparing every other New Year's to that one that was amazing, and you can't ever get there. So it's like that comparison also is a problem that we have too. You look back and you go, oh man, I remember, New Year's, 2012 was the best of my life. That was so amazing. We had so much fun and we all did this and that. And it was so much. And then you compare every single year, and every year is going to fall short. Every year is going to fall short compared to that. So if we compare it, that's going to be a problem. And I think a lot of us are dealing with FOMO. I think FOMO is huge. The fear of missing out. The fear of missing out. The fear of missing out on the big party, the big plans, all the fun. Everybody else is going to have all this fun and I'm not going to have this fun. If I stay home, I'm the only person on the planet that's staying home for New Year's Eve. If I don't drink, I'm the only person on the planet that's not drinking. It's all these thoughts. Oh, all these people are going to have all this fun. All these people are going to experience all this. What about me? I'm not going to experience that. Oh my gosh. And I get it. The fear of missing out is a huge thing when it comes to the human condition. And we fear that on many levels, not just New Year's, right? The fear of missing out is like every party. Relationships that you think are better than you and, your husband or your wife or your significant other. You look at other people and you go, gosh, they must have the best relationship in the world. I'm missing out. The fear of missing out. And New Year's Eve, I think, is the pinnacle of FOMO. It's the pinnacle of FOMO because everybody's like, oh, wow, what are they doing? You look on Instagram and you see somebody partying at a big party in Aspen, and the drinks are flowing and the champagne's going and everything's going on and it looks fabulous. You see, people, partying in Dubai, people partying here, people partying there, taking private jets all over the place. And you're like, wow, that's the life. And then you compare that to you. Well, here I am, I'm in town trying to get a few people together. I already had a few people cancel. What am I going to do? What is this New Year's going to look like compared to other people's New Year's? And I think it's not just the New Year's thing. It's not just like, oh my God, my New Year's party. You start the FOMO starts to kind of go over into the next year. Like, oh, if this is the way that my New Year's Eve is going to be, how is my year going to be? Is this going to get better? Is this going to get worse? How are things going to work out for me? And it's hard. It really is hard to overcome that FOMO. And I had it last year a little bit because I was really disappointed. The people that actually, canceled were the ones that pushed me into basically getting the reservations because I was thinking about just staying home. And so, it's okay, it's fine. And then I invited another couple who was happy to come along as well. But it's hard when you find that out, that information, and other people are, hoping for, quite the gathering. There's at least 8 people at the table that people can communicate with and conversate and all that, which is great. And it turns into 4. Not that that's a problem, but again, it's expectations. And that's a problem. And it's interesting, too, because, a few of those people that canceled last year are reaching out again this year. And I'm pretty gun shy, honestly, because I don't really want to go through that again. I don't want to deal with that again. It's definitely not something I want to deal with. However, I will, reach back out and see what that looks like. But I'm also thinking, should I just be in charge of my own domain? Should I just pick something that I want to do, make it happen, be cool with that, and move on? And I was also thinking, too, I might just go out and do something on the 1st. I might change my entire situation around and look at life in a different manner and do something, very cool on the 1st that complements and really inspires for my new year. And I think that could also be a way that we take the energy off the fear of missing out. Because you know how many people are diagnosed with FOMO every New Year's Eve, every time coming up? Because think about how much stress it adds to the holiday season. The other day, a friend of mine that works with us here at Live Your True Life Institute, she was saying, oh yeah, we already have plans. It's going to be, 10 couples and everybody's going to go here. And we made these big plans for New Year's. And at first I was happy for them, but then it was like the FOMO, showed up. That FOMO came in. I was like, whoa, yeah, really? Already got plans, huh? Oh, wow, that's pretty great. How you already got a restaurant. Oh, wow, how'd you pull that off for that many people? I can't even find a reservation for 2, much less that. And I was like, okay, wow, okay, great. Well, congratulations. Well, in the next couple of days, it crumbled in front of their very eyes because somebody else said they couldn't go. Somebody said they didn't want somebody's kids there. All these different things were going on. And so the plans changed from being all these people going and they're having this big, wonderful, extravaganza to nobody has any plans. And there was a part of me that felt bad for them, but a part of me that didn't, honestly, because you know what? It's like, wait a second, I don't have anything going on. And so, when we think about FOMO, it happens to the best of us. No matter if you're a huge spiritual leader, it doesn't matter. Working on FOMO is very important, but I do feel like NYE brings out the worst in everybody when it comes to FOMO. It brings out the worst because it is so overly hyped. And when I return, I'm going to start talking about things that we can do to not be let down by New Year's Eve. Things that we can do to not get let down, to not feel bad, to not beat ourselves up, and to literally turn the page to a new chapter where we do things differently this year. And from here on out, we let go of FOMO when it comes to New Year's Eve forever. So here, stay tuned. Don't change the channel. We got a lot of stuff to talk about because we're gonna shrink the hype. We're going to stop overvaluing this, and we are going to make the best of this time of year for us. Stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time, in 2 shakes.
Got great ideas, but no idea how to build a website? Get Bluehost. Their AI design tool creates high-quality WordPress sites super fast. Whether you're a blogger, influencer, or launching a side hustle, Bluehost helps boost your growth with built-in marketing and e-commerce tools. Upgrade to cloud to get 100% uptime and 24/7 security to stay online all the time. Why wait? You've got the vision. Make it real. Visit Bluehost.com to get started.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Let's not get let down by New Year's Eve this year. Let's stop putting all that energy and stop giving into all the hype. Let's take that back. Let's take our energy and our power back so we don't have FOMO. FOMO is at the absolute pinnacle of its worst on December 31st. And I find that the lead up from Christmas and Hanukkah or whatever you're celebrating, the stress level begins to mount the closer we get to the 31st, because all these people are doing this crazy stuff and people are going out and partying and taking trips and flying places and all this stuff. And you're like, wow, I'm home. And, and then you start questioning, do I have any friends? Where are my friends? What am I doing? What can I do? And it's challenging. And you start trying to put it all together. You try to start doing something. You try to put something together, try to cobble something together. I think that's a great word, cobble. When we try to cobble, New Year's Eve, because it's like you really are. You're like, okay, hey, are you home? Okay, yeah. Okay, you around? Okay, yeah. Let's do that. Okay, you in? Okay, yeah. And it's almost like roll call, and you're trying to figure out, and you're exasperated after a certain point. I don't even know what the hell I'm gonna do anymore. And and that's when you're like, okay, what are we doing here? And I found that I feel like that anxiety and that stress. And I think a lot of people get sad even. It's not just FOMO. I mean, some of you get sad. You get sadness around New Year's Eve. It's sad because it doesn't live up to the hype. You get sad because maybe you can't hang out with that person. You get sad because things have changed and augmented in your life, and you're over there just kind of thinking about it, ruminating it. And those are things we don't want to do either. We don't want to ruminate in our sadness either. We want to really take our energy and try to figure out, how do I take this energy I have? How do I take this mental energy that I have and focus on something that can benefit me in a positive way that I can do to change my life, and I can do to walk into January 1st feeling better, feeling more aware, feeling more on point. How do I do that? What do I do? And these are very, very important questions to ask, because if you're feeling disappointed, because many of us have the expectations, and then what happened to me last year, yes, there were still folks there, but again, it's other people are involved, and you feel how other people are feeling too, because you're like, hey, I hate to relay the message, but I just found this out. And the hard thing was about that night in particular is, my one friend was like, no, you know what? I'm going to try to get down there. And things kept changing. And so it was hype and more hype and more hype. And then it was okay, well, let's just go home. We ate. Great to see you. Goodbye. And it just was it was almost like the failure. The night didn't, it didn't fly. It didn't go off. There was a hitch, and everybody kind of feels it because they want everything to be perfect. And that FOMO, it's you look around and you go, gosh, it would have been better if, maybe we should have just done individual things. Everybody just done their own dinner. Also a FOMO, you see, some people having big parties. Oh, they had this huge party. It's great. And it's it's interesting because the issue that I have a lot of times during this type of situation is that part of me wants to kind of just do my own thing. I don't really want to deal with everything. I just want to do my own thing. Some of me wants to see friends and hang out, but it's I kind of want to just kind of not make such a big hype about it. It's why is it such a big deal? It's really any day, and we have all these calendars, the Gregorian calendar, the Buddhist calendar. None of the calendars are the same. How do you even know it's December 31st anyway? We're all just giving it all this accreditation and this credibility that this is actually the day, and it's actually the beginning of the year. It could be in the middle of the year. We don't know. We're falling hype to all this stuff. And so kind of putting in perspective is the way that I want us to talk about here in just a bit. How do we do that? How do we really put this time and date and perspective, how do we begin to limit the stress level surrounding this date starting right now? And how do we augment that forever? Because I think if we can get a handle on this, the season actually feels better because there's not that big of a deal. It's like, okay, hey, I'm going to celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah, but after that, I'm okay. I can just chill and I can just fly into the new year being successful and maintaining my motivation and working to be the best version of me I can be. Stay tuned. Don't change the channel. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. The letdown of New Year's Eve is very real, and it happens to most of us. Some of us revere the date, others of us hate the date. Some of us stress out about it and the buildup of the expectations of what it's supposed to be and how it unravels in front of your very eyes. And not every year. There's some years you have a fabulous time, but then if you do have a fabulous time, you compare that fabulous time to every year after. And it's interesting how that works. And what I found is that there's so much hype surrounding December 31st, and the build up to it is so overwhelming and stressful that many times we lose sight of what is important. We lose sight of what we need to do. We lose sight of where we need to go. We lose sight of what we should do. And so we get overwhelmed. We try to find friends. We recruit people. What are you doing? Are you in town? Let's do this. Let's do that. And you start trying to organize something, or you just give up and you're like, I don't want to do this. This is stressful. And, you know, I'm deemed to be at home by myself alone for New Year's Eve. And these can be overwhelming feelings. And I find that Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever holiday that you choose to celebrate, can be stressful around, the family and the dynamic and everything. But when you add the New Year's issue and you add that 31st in, causes stress, anxiety, fear, and it begins to become a problem. And I think if we can actually direct our energy in a different way, begin to see that day is just another day. And I'm not saying we devalue it. I'm just like, see it as another day, like March 1st. Do you go out and freak out and call all your friends and try to figure out what you're going to do on March 1st? Oh my God, it's March 1st. Oh my God, I got FOMO. Oh, I got so much FOMO. Oh God. Oh, what am I going to do? Yeah, but the fear of missing out is such a big game player with this hype. It really is. I mean, it really is. And that's one of the big things is trying to remove that FOMO, because FOMO really does leave like a bad taste in your mouth, right? It's like, everybody else is having a blast and here I am just sitting on my butt. Everybody else is doing this and having a big party, watching fireworks and doing this and doing that. And here I am having a beer. Yeah, and it's like really putting it in perspective. And so how do we begin to look at the big picture and take the hype out of this? How do we begin to look at the big picture and say, hey, does this really matter? And I think one of the big things that I do that helps me with issues in my life is I ask myself, is this going to be an issue in 3 days? And if I say yes, it's going to be an issue in 3 days, I'm still going to feel it. Is there going to be pain in 3 days? Yes. Is this going to be an issue in 7 days? Am I still going to feel the pain? Probably not. I mean, you got to think about it. Is this going to be an issue in a month? Is this going to be an issue in a year? These are the way that I kind of relatively stress about things and put things in, basically not stress, but put things in perspective, Is this going to affect me for a year? Is this going to affect me for 6 months? Is this going to affect me for a month? Is this going to affect me for 2 weeks? Is this going to affect me for a day? What is the effect level? And I find that too, one of the things is that I find that the more we can actually focus inner and in ourselves and the internal energy and focusing on what is important to us, what we value, if we can focus on what we value, we take the energy out of it. We take the energy out of it. We deflate the 31st. I'm not trying to, say, oh, we should hate on it and all this stuff. I'm just saying, hey, let's just put it in perspective. It's one day. There's all these calendars. You got the Gregorian calendar, the Buddhist calendar. You got all these calendars. We don't even know. We all think that it's December 31st coming up, and it may or may not be. Who knows? But it's just a day. And it's a day to start another year. And, some of you say same shit, different day anyway, which I don't agree with because I think we need to be in the moment. But, it's just another day. And so if we kind of put it in perspective, we look at, okay, what is it that I really want to be doing tomorrow? What can I do to basically, celebrate the last day of the year in a healthy, somewhat healthy manner? Because the other side of the coin, too, is many of you are trying to stop something, whether it's smoking or drinking or whatever it is. And, this is one of the hardest days to do that. And it's really hard to stop something after, the night before you were overindulging in that, whatever that was. And so again, it's are we going to put ourselves in the right trajectory for change? Are we going to put ourselves in the right mindset? The correct mindset for change. And I think that's so important to think about. What is the correct mindset for change? How do we get there? And I know that, spending all night being sick and throwing up is definitely not the mindset for change, right? That's, and I know that some of y'all have been there, and I know we've all been there. Let's just be honest with it. But that's not where I want to be come, 1/1. Thinking about where I want to be at. That's not where I want to be in my life. That's not where I want to be at when I wake up going, oh, God, oh, help me, please, please. I'll go around and tell everybody never to drink. God, save me, help me. I don't want to be there. That's not where I want to personally be. So how do you make sure that you don't go there? How do you make sure that you actually enjoy to some degree? It's not about let's just shut down and act like it doesn't exist, go to bed at 8 o'clock and call it a night. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that there has to be some sort of personal ceremony, perhaps, where you sit there and you go, okay, hey, I look at some of the things that I'm grateful for. I acknowledge what I am grateful for. I think that's a good one. Maybe you also acknowledge the pain you had, maybe some of the suffering you went through this year. I'm not saying that I don't want anybody ruminating, but you can accept the fact that you went through it. And then I think, what do you want to see in the new year? What do you want it to look like? What does it look like to you? What do you want? What do you want? WDYW, what do you want? Think about that, because those are important questions to ask. And I think that when we're too busy trying to figure out what's the best party or who should you invite and who should come to this and where you should get the reservations and God forbid this happen or that happen or all that, it's we get lost in the shuffle of what we're really doing. We get lost of what we're trying to create. We get lost. And that's kind of, we get lost in our own thoughts, our own mind, our own situations, all those things that become a problem. And that's what I think is very important. I think that's very important, that we acknowledge the fact that this gets us off target. We acknowledge the fact that we focus on what doesn't matter. The fact that last year, the people bailed at the last minute, creating not the perfect situation, really sucked. And it could have been done days before, let's just acknowledge that. And I think that's one of the issues, but it is what it is. But, all that, and then the stress of, okay, well, I got this, and now, the restaurant, and the stress, and, and then, okay, does other people want to make it, and they can't make it, and all this, all of that together is just too burdensome. It's a burden. And in that process of the burden, I didn't have time to look at what I'm grateful for. I didn't have time to accept and to, congratulate myself for getting over the pain and suffering I went through the year before. I didn't think about, oh, hey, what do I want to accomplish, this year coming into the new year. I didn't have any time for that because I was too busy dealing with the stress of one day. One day, you don't sit there on September 20th, going to dinner with people and freak out like that level on September 20th. That's not a big deal. I'm just pulling a random day out of my hat here. I'm not wearing a hat, but you see what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, so why does this become so important? And so I think if we actually put our energy into those types of things and really catching when FOMO rears its ugly head, because it's going to show up. No matter all the work we do, it doesn't matter. It's just, we've been trained to feel that way. We've been trained to have that FOMO. We've been trained to wonder what everybody else is doing. We've been trained to think that what we're doing is not that important. We've been trained to feel like other people are doing more than we are. We've been trained that over time. It's part of the game. Makes the hype continue, right? If people were all hyped out and they're like, okay, cool, I think I'm going to go to my nearest grocery store and make a cool dinner and hang out and have maybe a glass of wine or two and chill and go to bed at a proper time and get up and be ready for the first and set my heights on some stuff and really focus on my motivation, everything would be a little different. Most of these clubs would be out of business. These restaurants wouldn't be making all this money. The stress level, the antidepressant drugs wouldn't be doing as well. The anti-anxiety drug companies wouldn't be doing as well. I mean, you got to keep the hype going on. This has got to stay. This has got to stay because this keeps everybody going, right? Keeps everybody on edge, right? Keeps everybody stressed out. Oh my gosh, I'm already stressed out about Christmas because I'm not going to see family. Or on the other side, for some of you, I'm all stressed out about Christmas because I'm going to see a bunch of family that I don't really get along with and have some issues with. And now I gotta buck up to that. And then when I get home, I got to figure out what I'm going to do for New Year's. I'm either single and I feel like I'm alone. What am I going to do then? Or I'm recently divorced, or I'm recently dating somebody, but we're not there yet, so that, can't do that. Or I got kids and there's no babysitters on the planet. Whatever it is what it is. We all are dealing with something. All of us have something in our life that we're dealing with. All of us do. Maybe our health is suffering. Maybe there's a financial crisis in your life right now. These are the things that we have to think about. And we don't need to just sit in it and wallow in it, but we have to accept that and go, hey, maybe that's in the way of this year, me celebrating, but how can I celebrate on a small level? How can I do something for myself to really focus on a personal ceremony of what I'm grateful for, patting myself on the back for the pain and suffering I've gone through. We've all gone through pain and suffering this year, guys. Everybody has. I have. You have. We all have. And some of it has been pretty bad. And some of it has been bad that you haven't had anybody to talk to about it. You got no person to talk to about it. You got to keep it all inside. Some of you go to a therapist or counselor or coach like me, which is very helpful because you can talk about it. There's no judgment. If you'd like to work with me, just go to ashleyburgess.com, Ashley, BERGES.com, and click on that coaching session page, and you can set up an appointment right then. You can also go to that contact page, ashleyburgess.com, click on contact if you want to send me a message prior, if you have any questions or thoughts that you would like to ask me before scheduling an appointment with me. But, if you have that, option, that's great, but, and you're able to talk about it. But again, even if you're able to talk about it, you still went through the pain and suffering that you went through. And so giving yourself a pat on the back, hey, I got through it. I made it. I went through that. Now, okay, that we've gone through this, how do we want the new year to look? How do I want this new year that I am dealing with? How do I want this to look in my life? What do I want? How do I want this to look? And I think that this is very important to acknowledge. This is very important to understand. These are the things we need to acknowledge in our life. And if we can take that energy of the burden and the fear that, John and Alicia's not going to make the party and so-and-so is going to cancel at the last minute and you're going to freak out because you got to tell the restaurant that you don't need 8 people, you got 4 and you had, you paid specially ahead to get this done and now this isn't going to work and now what are you going to do? And so many things all at one time. And that's where I feel like, why do you want to deal with all that when we can actually just focus on some things that need to be focused on? And so let's prepare for that. How do we get prepared for that? How do we begin to refocus our brain after how many years? It could be many of you have been doing this New Year's thing for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. How do we reprogram our brain to be able to see things clearly to be able to start formulating thoughts and to be able to start thinking about how we want the year to look. How do we want this year to look? How do we want things to go? So I would actually, if you can, get yourself a calendar and start creating a timeline. And I actually put on the top of each date. So, like on the 26th, I put something, today, like today's date, you put something like all the way through the year, especially in December. I'm going to start working on acknowledging what I'm grateful for. I'm going to think about what I want this year to look like. WDYW. What do you want? What do I want? And I want you to start thinking about that. Put it in the calendar. So when you sit there and go, oh my God, what am I going to do? What are we going to do for New Year's Eve? What am I going to do for New Year's? Try to, if you got something easy breezy to do, great. If you can do the easiest plan, do it. But really focus this energy on that. Focus it, because remember, everybody else is stressed out. Everybody else is anxious. You got all kinds of things going on. So you got all these cards stacked against you to make these things work. You got all the cards stacked against you for things to really work out that night. It's just the way it is, right? And it's just a night. And that's the big kind of, rub, I think, is accepting that and saying, okay, hey, what can I control? Well, you know what? I can control myself. I can decide what I'm doing. I can control myself. I can get things for myself. If I want a few people to come, great. If they show up, great. If they don't, okay. Either way, how do I want to feel? Where do I want my head to be? How do I want my headspace to be? How do I want to feel emotionally, mentally, and physically? What do I want to focus on? How do I get myself into the feeling of a personal ceremony and really focus on that and start writing things down? I would get a journal and start thinking about it right now. Start thinking about, and this is something you can use every single year. And this is something you can use around anything that provides stress in your life, any date or time that provides stress in your life, like a birthday or even Christmas or any of these types of dates. These are things that you can do to really take back your energy and focus on what really matters. I got more coming up, so stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. New Year's Eve, December 31st, can be, painful. It can be stressful, overwhelming. Plans don't come together, things fall apart at the last minute, and there you are, overwhelmed, upset, and filled with FOMO. And, many of us get FOMO. That's normal. We get, because the fear of missing out, the fear of other people having all this fun, we're not having any fun, and really focusing on the wrong things. And that's why I feel like the hype of December 31st needs to be just deflated completely. It's another day, and we need to look at it as another day entering into this new year. And focusing on the fact that we can focus on what we want this new year to look like. What we want in this new year. What are the experiences that we want to experience in this new year? How do we see ourselves growing in this new year? And this is so powerful. And so if we have that personal ceremony, if we have gratitude and acknowledge what good went on this year, the good things that happen. And think about all the time we have if we're not super focused on, so-and-so making the dinner or having this big party or planning this big trip, how we can actually experience what we want. And I know that many of you are also wanting to quit something, whether it's smoking weed or vaping or cigarettes or alcohol or drugs or whatever it is that you want to quit in your life. And this is one of the hardest times because, the night you want to party hardy and do all this stuff, but it's hard because the very next day you're starting to feel bad, you're feeling guilty, you're feeling shame. It's just like a double whammy for a lot of people. You have fun, but yet you're feeling shame and feeling bad going into the new year, basically comatose, had been throwing up, feeling horrible, super horrible, eating badly, having pizza at 3 a.m., you know what I'm saying, all these kind of things, and feeling bad. So why do we want to do that? And I think if we can look at a personal ceremony and say, hey, it's just another day to give a reason to party. If I want to interact with people and I want to have people, that's great. If I have family members, great. If I have friends that join me, great. If I don't, that's fine too. And then how do I really focus that energy on what I can actually focus on? How do I focus on the new year? How do I focus on bettering myself? How do I focus on accomplishing my goals? And how do I accomplish those goals this year? And I hope that this has been a valuable podcast and radio show for you, because I feel like it's necessary. I feel like the stress and anxiety that comes from planning December 31st and the things that go wrong and the things that don't work and the things that fall through the cracks are just so painful. And it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth for the whole last year. And it's like, why do we want to do that? We want to step into this next year, feeling very positive, feeling very powerful, feeling empowered, motivated. We want to walk in with all those great feelings, not the other way around. And I feel like when we give too much power to the FOMO, too much power to the hype, that's exactly what's going to happen. We are going to be let down. We're going to feel less. We're going to feel stress. We're just none of this is like positive coming out of this. So we want to augment that, make those changes, feel better, create that reality, and go into the new year feeling good about ourselves and our contributions. And I hope that you have a beautiful end of the year. I hope you have a great start to the year. And it's every day is just a day. It's another day on our path. No matter what day it is, it's another day on our path. It's another day to figure out who we are. WDYW, what do you want in your life? What do you want? Think about that. Use this time and use your effort and power to focus on what do you want and how will you get it? How will you make it a reality? I look forward to hearing from many of you this year. If you'd like to contact me, just go to ashleyburgess.com, click on that contact page, and send me a message. I'll get back to you ASAP. If you'd like to work with me, go to ashleyburgess.com again, go to coaching section, and just go to your coaching session page, click on that. I also have therapists working with me as well that can also work with you that have specializations. So we have, Erica, Leah, and Lisa, and all of them have specializations and they all can help. So if you have a question or you would like to know more about them or more about my work, definitely reach out on that contact page. And I look forward to hearing from you. Anything I can do to help you make this year, next year better. Anything I can do to help you motivate and contribute to your health and happiness and balance. That is exactly what we want. And I want you to have the absolute best holidays, the absolute best 31st, but the right way, with the energy directed purposefully. Purposefully is where we want to direct our energy. And I find that very powerful. If you haven't already, get involved, get on Instagram. We're on Instagram, Ashley Burgess, Facebook, Ashley Burgess, Twitter X, Ashley Burgess, TikTok, Ashley Burgess. So let me know. Look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that this show has resonated with you. Please share with anybody that's going through FOMO, stress, anxiety around this time of year, because this is very real. Stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.